Hi everyone, welcome to week 4. Before I get into the content for week 4, I want to just have a brief discussion about discussions. You're going to be noticing starting in the grades you're going to be looking at for for module 3, that I'm really not going to make a whole lot of comments when I'm grading your discussion. Most of the comments that I make, I seem like I'm making them week after week. So what I ask is a few things. One, make sure that you use references and in-text citations, especially with your initial response to the prompt. That shows me that you are making connections to your learning and the learning materials. If you have difficulties with understanding APA formatting, you can either contact the Writing Center or you can go online and Google APA owls like hoot hoot owls, and it will take you to a Purdue website that will give you all sorts of help with understanding of APA format for in-text citations and for references. You should have at least one in-text citation for every single reference you use, and that goes for the discussions, it goes for any written assignments as well. What this does is it shows the reader exactly what information you've gotten from the source. If you don't have an in-text citation, you're implying that you didn't get any information from that source. So I hope that fits together for you. So that the initial response to the prompt is always going to be due on Wednesdays before midnight. If you are late with your initial response to the prompt, you will not receive a score on the first 2 sections of the rubric. And then your additional 3, so you should have 4 posts altogether at the end of the week, are due before Sunday, on Sunday before midnight. I do ask that you don't wait until the last few hours of the discussion to make all of your posts. What happens when you do that is it's really no longer a discussion. You're not giving anybody an opportunity to read what you wrote and respond to it. So really try to make your posts throughout the week. The same thing happens to a lesser extent when you do all of your posts, let's say on Thursday or Friday, and then you never go back into the discussion board to see if anybody's responded to what you've said or asked you a question. So no matter what you do, try to get into the discussion board at least on a couple of days. We're taking an asynchronous class here, and one of the ways that you are learning is this back and forth reciprocal kind of discussion with your classmates. And when, again, they're saved all the way to the end or they're sort of done to get it done all in one fell swoop, you're really not having that kind of a robust discussion. But enough with that. Let's get on to this week's content. This week, we're going to be talking about intellectual disabilities in the category of traumatic brain injury, also called TBI, orthopedic impairments, and multiple disabilities. So you're going to have a bunch of information to read, some FAQs on intellectual disabilities, also known as ID, information to read about orthopedic impairments. And then there are some videos for you to watch, see a little bit of how UDL principles were used in the design of this class. There's videos on inclusion, ID, TBI, and multiple disabilities. And then if you have the supplemental text, chapters 6 and 14 are the ones that go along with the content this week. So our discussion this week is, I would like you to define what an intellectual disability is. This is a really good place for you to have a reference and an in-text citation to show me where you've gotten that definition from. How can a student identified in the ID category be meaningfully included in general education? And again, you're watching a video about inclusion of students with intellectual disabilities, so that may be another place where you will have a reference and an in-text citation. Make sure you include examples of accommodations, modifications, and universal design that could be effective for the student that's identified as having an intellectual disability. In week 2, you really dove into accommodations. They talk about the how, modifications, they talk about the what, And you also talked about UDL in your assignments. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of your discussion prompts. And then our assignment this week, you have some choices to make. What I want you to do is to design a classroom using the principles of UDL. But I want it to be accessible, and I want it to be accessible to a student with a disability that impacts their mobility. So it could be, let's say, a student with cerebral palsy that uses a walker, or a student that needs to use a wheelchair, something that has to do with mobility. I want you to describe the physical environment, and that would include the materials that are in the classroom and how those materials and the space and the environment will be accessible independently by all students. And you have choices to make here. You can do a written paper. Again, don't forget those citations and references. You can use an annotated drawing, so just get a sheet of paper and draw your ideas out. Use the same thing. You can still have in-text citations, and you must have references. They can be on a separate page. You could build a diorama and then hand in a separate page with your references. Or you could choose to do a presentation, make sure it has a narration, or a video presentation. Again, make sure that you have in-text citations and references. If you do a video, it's just orally, you'll do those in-text citations. You can say, in the video by blah, 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 and then say what the idea is. So you have a lot of choices here. I have even had students do this assignment in The Sims and turn in a video of what they've built in The Sims. So use all of your creative juices. If you have a question about what you're thinking about doing, if it's going to be acceptable, just drop me a line. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I am looking forward to hearing from all of you in the discussion. I can't wait to see your classroom designs, and I hope you have a great week. Take care.